We are going to recap today's games and see how they affected the Miami Dolphins either in a positive or a negative way. What is up, fans? So I think there's like one or two games going on right now. One of them might be over by the time I get to it. The Eagles and Cowboys have no implication on the Dolphins really at all, but the Cowboys are on a Phillies 1 at 4th and goal, and the game is tied right now, which is bonkers. The other games pretty much are locked up, and by the time I get to them, we'll be able to know. But essentially what I want to do is look at the games that happened today, being that the Dolphins didn't play, and talk about how they either help the Dolphins when it comes to getting in the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen. Or help the Dolphins in the aspect of moving up in the draft from the 11 spot. So there are a bunch of games today that I do want to get to and I do want to talk about. But first, I do want to shout out today's sponsor and the official sponsor of the channel during the football season. That is Sleeper. Go check them out. I have the Pick'em League on there. I haven't even checked how my Pick'em League did this week. Probably horribly. But go check them out. Use the promo code DDW, you get 100% matched up to $100. And if you just want to try it for the first time, like, hey, I just want to give it a whirl, see what it's about, you get a free $20 entry, no deposit needed. So we are going to be looking at this. I'm going to start with this one, right? Real quick, I just want to talk about the Texans-Bills game, which is craziness that the Bills lost this game, right? 7-3 coming into this game. You got a 5-5 Houston Texans team. The Houston Texans are the Bills' kryptonite, especially when it comes to playing in Houston. Look at Josh Allen's numbers: 24 for 34, 253 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. James Cook still went off, and Khalil Shakir, butchered that name, Shakir was their leading, but that's it. Shakir had a fumble. They had the nice 4th and long, hook and ladder. Well, didn't sack him. The didn't sack him. 8 sacks, but they got no sacks on Giraffe Davis Mills, who had a fantastic game. 8 sacks, 2.5 from Will Anderson, 2 from Danielle Hunter. Like, we're just going after Josh Allen, and them losing this game really put the New England Patriots in like the driver's seat to win the East, because they now have like about a 3-game lead on Buffalo. But as a Dolphin fan who experienced 2023, the 3-game lead doesn't mean bupkis. So there's that. And as you saw up here, this game just ended with the Jaguars beating the Cardinals, which helped the Dolphins in the aspect of the draft compensation, but we will get to that. So we'll start some of the 1 o'clock games. This one here helped the Dolphins with the Baltimore Ravens beating the Jets. Now, if the Jets would have won this game, it would have helped the Dolphins potentially move up in the draft, because then the Jets would be at 3 wins, and then they play the Dolphins and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But Baltimore winning this game, essentially they are now the number one team in the AFC North, and I think they're the number 4 seed now, which took the Steelers and threw them completely out of the playoffs. We will look at the playoff picture and we will look at the draft order, but just completely flipped that whole division on its head, which is absolutely nuts. For a good portion of this game, it was a close game. You look at halftime, the Jets were up 7-3. It's just offensively, they couldn't get anything going. You see Tyrod Taylor, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Couldn't really get the run game going. Couldn't really get the pass game going, especially because they didn't have their leading receiver. And you look at Lamar Jackson. He didn't have a great day. He only had 153 yards. Derrick Henry only had 64 rushing yards, but it was the 2 touchdowns from him. Lamar fumbled, but they got it back. Was there a pick 6? No, there wasn't a pick 6. So what? It was 2 rushing touchdowns that gave them 14, and then what? They kicked 9. They kicked 3 field goals. So the Jets defense did what they had to do, Yeah, 3 field goals. It's just their offense couldn't put anything together, right? You held the Baltimore Ravens to 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals. Got to win that game. But obviously the Jets are the Jets, and they are where they are for an obvious reason. What other early games can we talk about? The Colts and the Chiefs. This one doesn't really matter for the Dolphins. Actually, it does matter, because if the Chiefs would have lost, it would have put them at 5-6 and had 1 game ahead of the Miami Dolphins when it came to playoff standings. But the fact that they won hurt the Dolphins, because now they're 2 games ahead of them. Again, this is all pipe dream stuff. It's just, I'm keeping you updated on the goods and the bads. So the Chiefs winning hurt. We needed the Colts to win this one, but the Chiefs played a fantastic game, especially Patrick Mahomes. He had that 1 interception, but you were watching him throughout the day. He was making very good throws. Kareem Hunt, they really relied on the run. 30 carries for 104 yards. Now that average is not good, but they just kept running it and running it and running it. Rashee Rice was their leading receiver. You look on the other side, really weren't doing anything, right? Daniel Jones, he had the 2 touchdowns, only 181 yards. They weren't really running. Jonathan Taylor had 58 rushing yards. His fantasy owners are probably pissed about that. Receiving, again, nothing really there. 4 sacks on the day, though. That's something good. And then again, Kansas City, no sacks. It was a good, hard-fought game. This is like a playoff game right here, the way this one ended. Especially with the Kansas City Chiefs getting a field goal range and then getting another first down and able to chew the clock out. But, the Chiefs winning definitely hurt the Miami Dolphins. This one here that kind of just ended, good for Shedeur Sanders, right? 11 for 20, 209 yards. He had the interception, didn't have a great day. His touchdown came off a screen, right? So I wish his touchdown came off like a 20-yard pass. He threw a 1-yard pass, and then Dylan Sampson took it the rest of the way for 66 yards for the touchdown. He got the job done, though. They won 24-10. Geno Smith, he ain't great. And Geno Smith, them losing also probably puts them in the category for a quarterback in this upcoming draft. We'll look at where they are tiered when it comes to the draft order. But this was just a game of 2 bad teams facing each other, and the lesser of the bad won. But I wouldn't say this is a great debut from Shedeur Sanders, but it isn't horrible. It wasn't like last week where he came in and he didn't look too great. They had 10 sacks on the day? Holy crap. Myles Garrett had 3. Malik Collins had 2.5. Holy moly, 10 Jeez. If I'm a quarterback coming out of the draft, I don't want to get drafted to the Raiders. I don't want to go back to the draft. Maybe that's why Dante Moore wants to go back to the draft. Holy moly. Looks like the Eagles are marching on this one. This one might go to overtime, which is crazy. Look at the Cowboys, 3 scores. We're down 21-7, shutting down the Eagles for 2 quarters. We'll look at this one, which again bode well for the Dolphins, because the Chicago Bears beat the Steelers, which put them at 6-5, and again dropped them out of the AFC North. Mason Rudolph, 24 for 31, 171, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not great. It was a close game. Again, Chicago only won by a field goal. Kenneth Gainwell, 92 yards. Jalen Warren, 68 yards and a touchdown. DK Metcalf, 12 yards and a touchdown on an end around probably. Pat Freiermuth had a touchdown in the passing game. A lot of fumbles here. Mason Rudolph had a fumble. Keshawn Williams had a fumble, but I'm assuming they got that back. How many sacks? Just 1, and then 2 from them. Caleb Williams, pretty good day. Jeez, 239 and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a good day by him. Rushing wise, nothing really there. I should have started Kyle. I didn't start him. And the guy I did start, which we'll get to that game real quick, the Giants-Lions. This game, another situation where you are up by 10 in the 4th quarter. And again, the Giants just gave it away. They are the first team officially eliminated from the playoffs, and they're definitely getting a top 5 pick. But the Dolphins don't have to worry about them getting a quarterback. Now, this is a team that if you want a quarterback, say Dante Moore does come out in this draft, which again, from what I'm hearing, he's not. But say he does come out in this draft and your 1-2 picks, your first pick is the Tennessee Titans and your second pick is the New York Giants. And it's either Mendoza, I think that's his name, and Dante Moore. You could trade up and get the quarterback if you want one of those two, because the Titans and the Giants are not taking a quarterback. Which then again, you can also play the poker game and sit there and hope that, okay, they're not going to take a quarterback, and I don't think anyone will trade up with them. So maybe if I'm sitting at 5, I can get one of them. But Jameis Winston actually had a decent game. He had the 1 interception, 366 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like total offense, they had like what? How many total offense did they have? 517 yards of total offense, and they lost the game. Jared Goff had a decent day. I have David Montgomery on my fantasy, and Jamari Gibbs, 219 rushing yards. I got to get a running back, man. I got to get a running back. Amon St. Brown went off, and then Robinson went off. Like, it was a passing day. 3 sacks by the Giants, only 1 sack that ended the game from Aiden Hutchinson. But again, this kind of solidifies that the Giants will probably get the number 2 pick because they've already been eliminated. You got the Patriots beating the Bengals. The Bengals are still 1 game ahead of the Dolphins, and they play each other. So again, that's where, you look at that and say, if we lose that game, depending on the draft, whatever. This game was interesting. And again, the Vikings having 4 wins now is in the category of where the Dolphins are. We will look at the picks. But Packers are the most up and down team I've ever seen, and I don't know what they are, because they'll lose games and then they'll win games and then they'll barely win games, and then like that Giants game last week was horrible, and then they come out here and drop 23 on the Vikings, and the Vikings only 6, I guess 9 didn't show up. Craziness there. The Steelers, I talked about this, beating the Bears. So yeah, the Titans are getting the number 1 overall pick, and they don't need a quarterback. So who do they take? Do they go trade route? It's going to be very interesting to see how this draft pans out. I already talked about the Chiefs, Browns, Jaguars. This one is where it had implications for the Dolphins, right? So the Jaguars winning kind of hurt the Dolphins in both ends, right? Because now you have the Cardinals sitting at 3-8. So the Dolphins weren't. If the Cardinals would have won, it would have dropped the Cardinals down, and the Dolphins would have went up from 11 to probably like 8. And the Jaguars losing would have been able to keep the Dolphins in that area of getting one of the wild cards. But being that they won, it kind of screwed that up. And we will talk about that in uno momento, por favor. The Falcons winning, that does move the Dolphins up. So they might not be at 11 anymore. And again, we will look at where their draft pick is. This one's interesting. I don't think this has much implications. They are in field goal range. They're on Philly's 46. So I'll keep you updated on this game. But again, we will look at the playoff picture now. So in the AFC, you see that the New England Patriots are 1, Denver's 2, Indy's 3, Baltimore is now 4, and the Steelers are out. Now, the Steelers were 4 and Baltimore was out. They literally just switched spots, right? Then you got the Chargers, the Jaguars, and the Bills. Then you have the Dolphins, the Texans, and the Chiefs. Now, if the Texans and the Chiefs I said Dolphins, Bills, Steelers, you know what I'm saying? If the Texans and the Chiefs would have lost, it would have been 1 game for the Dolphins to potentially jump up here. But now, again, they're 2 games, about 2.5 games out of getting in that wild card area, and then they are 3 games behind Buffalo. Being that we beat Buffalo and we have a head-to-head kind of matchup situation, there are some different things that could help the Dolphins get in. Again, but they would have to, the only way the Miami Dolphins make the playoffs is they have to get 10 wins. They have to run the rest of the table. They have to beat the Saints. They have to beat the Jets. They have to beat the Steelers, the Cincinnati Bengals, Tampa Bay, and finally New England to have any iota of a chance to make it into the playoffs. Now, you see New England sitting here at 10-2. They barely beat the Bengals. Then you have the Jets. Like, look at this run of wins where you're like, wow, look how good that is. The only wins on here that to me resemble any type of, oh, that's a good game, is kind of the Bucs game. Like, even the Bills game in Buffalo, we see how much they're struggling. So I'll give them these 2 wins in Bills and Bucs. But you got the Panthers, the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Jets, the Bengals. Like, give me a break. And then look at the rest of their schedule. The Giants, the Jets again, and the Dolphins. Like, at minimum, they're going to be sitting at 13 wins. And if they lose to the Bills and the Ravens, they're going to be 13-5. Like, they had the easiest schedule I've ever seen. How they lost to the Raiders and the Steelers, it boggles my mind. Like, seriously boggles my mind. But like, this run that they're on, I don't want to hear anything about that because it is a cakewalk. But we'll look at Tankathon, and we'll look at kind of where the Dolphins are when it comes to the draft order. Yeah, we moved up. Okay. So now the Dolphins are picking 10th. So we were picking 11th, but like I said, with the Atlanta Falcons winning, the Dolphins move up to 10. If Arizona would have won their game instead of lost to the Jaguars, the Dolphins would be picking at 9. Same thing. So if Cincinnati would have won, Arizona would have won, and Cleveland would have won, not Cleveland, because they have a lower strength of schedule. So if Arizona would have won and Cincy would have won, the Dolphins would have been picking at 8. And so these 4 teams right here, if you want a higher draft pick, you're looking at these 4 teams in Cleveland, Washington, Cincy, and Arizona, and you want them to start winning more, and you want the Dolphins to lose. So like next week, if these 4 teams win, and I don't know who's facing who, and the Dolphins lose, that would put them at 4 wins and the Dolphins at 4 wins. And I think the Dolphins would move up to the 7th pick. And then again, you want these teams to win. You know, the Dolphins will be facing these 2 teams. So if the Dolphins lose next week, they'll become 3-9. Dolphins will be 4-8. See what I'm saying? But it really seems like to me, the Titans and the Giants are your 1-2 pick. There is an opportunity for the Jets and the Saints to move up there, but as of right now, it seems like this is your 1-2 pick. Yeah, because if you have an easier strength of schedule, you move up because you should be winning. So if you see Cleveland has a 4.76 and Washington has a 5.17, so you have an easier strength of schedule, so you should be winning, but you're not. So they're like, you must suck really bad. We'll give you the higher draft pick. So that's how that works. So right now, the Dolphins did move up 1 spot from 11 to 10. A lot. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of season left. So a lot of this stuff is going to shift around. Right now, the Dolphins have a top 10 pick. They are picking at 10, and it's very easy, you know, depending on how the draft goes. Like, these people have the Tennessee Titans taking Reuben Bain Jr. They have the New York Giants taking Arvell Reese. And then they have the New Orleans Saints taking Fernando Mendoza. Then they have the Jets taking a Ty Simpson quarterback. And then the Raiders taking Dante Moore. Right? So if that's the case, if a quarterback run goes here, and the Dolphins are like, we want to grab one of those quarterbacks, you can just trade up with the Giants. You're going to give up firsts, but if you really like one of those quarterbacks in a Mendoza or Moore, if Moore does come out, do what you got to do to get your guy. 2027 also, and I will talk about this probably tomorrow about the 2027 draft and why tanking isn't that big of a deal right now. Might be the draft to get your quarterback. Let me give you an update on what's going on with the Cowboys game. Let's see. It's probably going to overtime. Yeah. Nope. Eagles call the time.
Here's the deal, y'all.
Yeah. I don't know. This game really doesn't matter, the Dolphins. But that's what I got for you guys today. I will see you tomorrow talking about the 2026 draft and 2027 draft, why it doesn't really matter if you tank or not. all that good stuff. But comment below, let me know what you want. Let me know, are you for, hey, we could still make the playoffs, I'm rooting for the teams ahead of us to lose? Or are you for, hey, our season's over, I want a higher draft pick, I'm rooting for these teams to win? Comment below, let me know what you guys think, and I will see you mañana. But like usual, stay classy. Effins out.